Welcome back to Watch the Booker Man and to episode number 73 of Paul Heyman's TNA, and we open up this week's show with the winners of last week's main event. Charlie Haas, Shelton Benjamin and Kurt Angle come down to the ring. Kurt Angle is leading the group, but he does make sure to give the spotlight to Shelton Benjamin during the promo, as he was the one who secured the vital fall. The commentators recap what happened, pointing out that he was responsible for Chris Hero's first defeat in TNA, as well as the first defeat of the New Age as a trio in the company. Once they're in the ring, Kurt Angle puts over the victory, like I said, and he talks about what this means to the fight back against the New Age. It also has implications for wrestling's greatest tag team alone, however, as they earned a shot at the Kings of Wrestling at Destination X. After seeing what happened, Paul Heyman made that match immediately, and we have the next title defense for the World Tag Team Champions. The World Heavyweight Champion also has an announcement of his own to make, confirming something different for his next pay-per-view title defense. It's something he's discussed likewise with the man in charge, and he'll be issuing an open challenge to any former X Division champion. The one condition is that person can have never been the world champion in TNA before. That's all there is to it. Surprisingly, we don't get any interruptions to this promo. The New Age perhaps still off licking at their wounds, and Team Angle then head up the ramp following the double announcement. A pretty straightforward segment, but you know that having Kurt Angle rated on his entertainment is going to give you the ratings that we're looking for. Two storylines gaining heat, and a lot of green notes for that opening segment as we go into the X Division opportunity match, and it's Kid Cash, who's a veteran, a former X Division champion, and he's in there with Mark Haskins, Rocky Romero and Zema Ion, and it is Rocky Romero who qualifies to that X Division match at Destination X. Kenny Omega and Jack Evans already in that match, and by pinning Zema Ion, Romero adds himself to the four-way. Zema the weakest link, so he was the right choice to take the fall. Rocky Romero and Mark Haskins, it was actually a toss-up between those two as to who I'd give the victory to, so it's good to see that the ratings back that up, but I did choose Rocky Romero. He's interviewed following the match. His dialogue was a mess. I think that's happened all 3 times now, but it's just been done because I want to give the chance to the newcomers to put themselves across. None of them have done particularly well, but he speaks about the tough challenge that he's just faced and the bigger challenge that lies ahead at Destination X. He is confident he can secure a victory at the upcoming pay-per-view. Then he's coming for whoever wins that Ultimate X match. So Roderick Strong, Tyler Black and Kevin Steen put on notice by Rocky Romero. Maybe he's speaking too soon though, because he does still have to win that match at Destination X. Speaking of the X Division champion, he is seen in the back with Samoa Joe, his partner for tonight's main event, where they'll face Kevin Steen and Tyler Black. Joe speaks with Strong about what he can expect from the Ultimate X, coming from his own experience in that match type, and says that it's certainly not his favourite match type, but he likes Strong's chances to win over Kevin Steen. Tyler Black will be the biggest threat in that match, but they're going to deal with him tonight. Roderick thanks Samoa Joe for being in his corner, calling him one of the greatest X Division athletes of all time. If he can be half the champion that Samoa Joe was, then he's confident he'll be able to put the X Division back at the top of the mountain where it belongs, the most exciting part of TNA. That's what everybody wants to see from the division, and that's what Roderick Strong's goal is. It's a decent segment as we move into the second match of the night, and we have Madison Rayne debut with her new look, perhaps a new attitude as well. Things don't go exactly to plan for Madison Rayne, but she does have a plan B, who arrives while Rayne distracts the referee. This 6'10" monster takes Taylor Wilde down. She does the heavy lifting, and Madison Rayne just has to pin Taylor Wilde in 8 minutes and 21. It's a good match actually, 57, happy with that. Madison Rayne back to winning ways, and we see that the female monster who's debuted gets a great gimmick rating, so that's very good. This is of course Isis the Amazon, who she was on NXT season 3 I think. I don't even think she actually debuted, but around this time in reality she had a tryout match for TNA, and I think that while she may not ever be anything great in the ring, just having a woman of that size stood by Madison Rayne makes her an instant massive threat in the Knockouts division, and she is joined by that gargantuan associate in the ring. The commentators don't recognise the woman, but of course comment on her height. We've never seen a woman this tall inside a TNA ring. Hamada runs down looking to come to the aid of Taylor Wilde, but she is quickly dispatched of by this huge woman. A headbutt sends Hamada to the outside. They then toss Taylor Wilde out of the ring, and Madison Rayne takes a microphone, introducing her new associate as simply her Amazon. Madison told everybody that she never needed a man, and with the Amazon by her side, she never will. So I'm not 100% sold on that name so far. So it's more Madison Rayne introducing what she's going to be, the bodyguard, the muscle, the heavy, whatever word you want to use. That's what she's going to be for Madison Rayne. Whether we decide on a different name going forward, we'll see. It's not that good of a rating for the segment, but I still think that the visual of this woman stood beside Madison Rayne is definitely going to do good things for her going forward. Tentatively entering the locker room of the New Age in the back, we see Kevin Steen approach his partner for tonight's main event, Tyler Black. The tension between the New Age and Kevin Steen is clear, going back to Kevin Steen's rejection of a place in the group a couple of months ago, but he makes it known that them pulling together will be a lot easier than them going into business for themselves. Tyler is delighted by the suggestion and says that Kevin can follow his lead tonight. Steen isn't so sure about that, saying that he's only been here a couple of months, but he's beaten both Joe and Strong in the past fortnight, so maybe Black should listen to him. Tyler Black shrugs, pointing out that he too has beaten both men. He's suggesting in a way there it's not really a big thing to beat those two, so some disrespect towards their opponents. As the bickering continues, Jimmy Jacobs steps between the two X Division Championship contenders. He says that it really isn't that complicated. All they have to do is work together and everything else will fall into place. He promises that before leading the Kings of Wrestling out of the locker room and leaving Black and Steen alone to strategize for the main event. Steen, quite surprisingly, not doing well without a script, but Tyler Black's masterful job of improvising makes sure that we gain heat to the storyline and that it is a good segment. Before the third match of the night, Chris Sabin is interviewed in the back and he talks about his upcoming match with Kurt Angle on TNA Evolve this week. He praises the performance of Alex Shelley last week, but knows that he has a huge task ahead of him with the World Heavyweight Champion. With that said, if he gives a good showing of himself on Saturday night, he might well throw his hat into the ring for the open challenge at Destination X. He is a former X Division champion after all, so maybe he can be the man to face Angle for the title. We'll see how his match this Saturday goes first, and it's another good segment from one half of the Motor City Machine Guns. We then go into a tag team match, and the Kings of Wrestling defeat the newcomers Colt Cabana and El Generico. This is maybe their third or fourth match in the company, and they last 11 minutes and 28 against the tag team champions, so no embarrassment by any stretch of the imagination, but Hero pins Colt Cabana with a hangman's elbow. Generico and Cabana mid-cardish ratings, while Castagnoli and Hero always impress us. Sent them out to have an all-out match because I did want this to deliver. A 67's okay, but the fact it gets the crowd hotter is definitely a good thing to see. And once Claudio Castagnoli returns to the ring, the Kings of Wrestling stand tall together. I meant to mention during the match, but the way that it ends up with just Chris Hero and Colt Cabana is we get something on the outside between Castagnoli and El Generico. I've said this before, but when I watched their matches in PWG around this time in reality, maybe give or take a year, I was blown away by what these two were capable of. Castagnoli and Generico are two guys who I can see having some big singles matches in the future, but at the minute, it's all about the tag team champions. Despite suffering his first pinfall victory last week, Chris Hero has reminded everybody how dangerous he and the World Tag Team Champions are. But of course, they'll defend those titles at Destination X against WGTT. AJ Styles then makes his way down to the ring, opening the second hour and showing footage from last week's TNA Evolve. He was closing in on victory over Matt Morgan when Mr. Anderson jumped him and caused the DQ. Styles says that he doesn't know which one of them he wants to address first. Anderson for sticking his nose in where it doesn't belong, or Matt Morgan for having no problem with Anderson essentially throwing in the towel for him. Coming out from the back, Mr. Anderson and Matt Morgan present themselves in a united front. However, as they reach the bottom of the ramp, AJ Styles runs to the ropes and dives from the ring to the outside. Mr. Anderson is taken down by this, but Matt Morgan is able to stay on his feet. He either catches AJ Styles or picks him up from the ground before throwing him into the guardrail. Mr. Anderson can then return to his feet and joins in, looking to do as much damage as possible in a short space of time. Morgan and Anderson then leave up the ramp after the attack. They sent a short, sharp message to AJ Styles. He may be able to beat Mr. Anderson, he may be able to beat Matt Morgan, but this apparent new alliance will be something very difficult for him. How he'll respond, we'll find out as we continue the build to Destination X. Again, it's another decent segment. I would have hoped for a little bit better, to be fair, but it does gain heat to Mr. Anderson's storyline. We then get a very, very short match as Bryan Danielson squashes Kiyoshi. It says 1 minute and 23. I'd arguably want this to be even shorter, but a dominant, decisive win via the cattle mutilation for Bryan Danielson. He gets a 75, which is a really good performance in such a short match. Kiyoshi does well as well, and it's a 60 rating for a 1 minute match. Certainly can't complain with that. Bryan Danielson cuts an intense figure in the ring after his victory. He is completely focused, having destroyed Kiyoshi with a dominant performance. Out from the back, Beer Money challenged Bryan Danielson to a match at Destination X. This is a repeat to the challenge from a couple of months ago at Genesis, because they're giving Bryan two choices. Either he faces them alone in a 2-on-1 handicap match, or he accepts Desmond Wolf's offer to team with him. Rude says that both options have benefits for Beer Money, so the choice is Bryan's. Taking a microphone from ringside, Danielson looks to the fans for their reaction, and after a pause, he tells Beer Money that he accepts the challenge and he will team with Desmond Wolf. So perhaps a softening of his stance on Wolf, or maybe he just sees that he has a better chance of winning with Wolf by his side than alone. Either way, it will be Bryan Danielson and Desmond Wolf versus Beer Money at Destination X. We then see Sara Del Rey speaking with Daisy Hayes in the back, laying down the law to her Destination X partner. She tells Hayes that she is going to have to raise her game before that pay-per-view. But she can't wait until Destination X for Daisy Hayes to raise the bar. She has to do it in her match tonight. Del Rey says that Alyssa Flash and Mischief will be out there on the lookout for Awesome Kong, so she just needs to focus on what is happening in the ring. From the look on Hayes' face, she is hanging on every word from the Knockouts champion. Of course, it makes sense that she would look up to such a dominant and impressive competitor as Sara Del Rey. She asks if she is ready for this, and Hayes nods enthusiastically, the pep talk seemingly working. One storyline gaining heat, one storyline losing heat, so not too many complaints there. And we do actually see a better performance from Daisy Hayes, not necessarily in the in-game ratings, but she lasts 8 minutes against Mickie James, which is impressive. Subpar wrestling apparently, but a decent reaction, and overall I'd say a decent match. Mickie James does, however, decisively and cleanly pick up the victory. Sara Del Rey and Tara are at ringside during the match. Post-match, Mickie James has her arm raised in the ring before a chaotic post-match incident unfolds. Another OK rated segment, and coming out to get her own piece of Daisy Hayes, unsurprisingly, Awesome Kong makes it through the barrier formed by Alyssa Flash and Mischief. Pretty straightforward for her before making a beeline to the ring. Sara Del Rey stands between Kong and the ring. She does at least show some protection towards Daisy Hayes, but she's torn as to whether she should offer this resistance, obviously not really liking her chances against Awesome Kong's power. The decision is taken out of her hands, however, as Tara takes her down from behind, throws her out of the way, and that means that Kong has a clear path. Mickie James standing aside to leave Kong alone with Daisy Hayes. Taking her time, Awesome Kong drags Daisy to her feet by the hair, hitting an implant buster in the middle of the ring to take the New Age member back down. Kong looks like she's maybe going to leave before turning back and deciding to go to the second rope, hitting a Kong splash to Daisy Hayes. With Hayes well and truly out cold now, Kong heads back up the ramp. Mickie and Tara impressed with the destruction that she had caused so quickly. All four members of the New Age flung around the ringside area, while Awesome Kong gets what may only be part one of her revenge against the group. We then get an interview segment with Kurt Angle to promote his match with Chris Sabin this Saturday at TNA Evolved, putting over the former tag team champion as one of the greatest X Division athletes of all time. He says that Chris Sabin is without doubt one of the best young wrestlers on the TNA roster, and maybe his performance on Saturday will encourage him to put his name forward. The World Heavyweight Champion does make it clear, however, that he's not going to go easy on Sabin, and he's not going to give him a second to rest. This may be an exhibition match, but Kurt Angle brings 100% with him every time he steps inside a TNA ring. As Jeremy Borash explains the X Division Open Challenge once more for viewers, Paul Heyman walks into the shot. The man in charge says he's fielded some impressive calls already tonight, but he thinks he may have just found the challenger for Kurt. Angle asks who it is. Paul takes out a pen and paper and writes something down. Kurt Angle looks impressed with the name on the sheet. JB also sneaks a look and his eyes widen. He can't quite believe the name that he's seeing on there. The viewers are still in the dark as to who that may be. Another good segment advancing the storyline as we go into that main event, and it is Roderick Strong and Samoa Joe who defeat Kevin Steen and Tyler Black in 19 minutes and 22. As well as not performing well on the microphone, Kevin Steen was off his game tonight as well and puts in the worst performance of the four men involved. It is, however, a good match, a 77, and actually seeing Samoa Joe with the 79, that's basically why he was put in this match. Tyler Black doing really well, don't get me wrong, but Joe adds that extra star quality that made me comfortable putting this in the main event spot. And the story is basically that Strong and Joe are the more cohesive unit, Tyler Black and Kevin Steen bickering throughout, each one wanting to be the leader, and Black kind of gives up at one point. He says forget it, they're pushing each other. He doesn't walk out on the match because I do actually use that trope a little bit too much, but he's disinterested as Kevin Steen is taken down by a muscle buster from Samoa Joe and then a sick kick from Roderick Strong. The 1-2-3, Strong getting his win back over Steen after he was defeated by him last week, and as soon as the bell rings, Tyler Black is off up the ramp. He doesn't try and help his partner, he doesn't try and break up the fall, he really doesn't care about Kevin Steen whatsoever. Roderick Strong is then handed the X Division Championship as he and Samoa Joe celebrate their victory, a cathartic moment for both men who have each had issues with Kevin Steen and Tyler Black recently. Samoa Joe ensures that the spotlight is on Roderick Strong. However, as Strong climbs to the second rope to raise his title, Joe hangs back a little bit. Surveying the scenario, Joe's actions raise suspicion from the commentators, but nothing happens until Strong returns to the canvas. Roddy indicates that the two are going to leave, but Joe says hold on a minute. He then requests a microphone from ringside and tells Strong that he feels great after tonight's match. Being in the ring with Strong, and despite his issues with them, Tyler Black and Kevin Steen reminded him why he loved the X Division. With Destination X coming up and the return of the Ultimate X, he wants in, he wants a shot at the X Division title. Strong takes a moment and considers this before grabbing the microphone and accepting the challenge. That's where Impact ends, so we're not 100% clear whether he is being added to the Ultimate X or whether he will be getting a separate title shot against Roderick Strong. That's because when I booked this, I wasn't in my own mind even 100% sure about this. After seeing the ratings of the main event, Samoa Joe may well have convinced me to put him in that Ultimate X, because if we get a four-way between those two that gets a similar rating, the 77, then it's certainly going to be the highlight or one of the highlights of Destination X, and we really want to make the X Division Championship the focus of Destination X. It's not that good of a final rating for the segment. Overall though, it is a very good show, 78, happy with that, increasing our popularity in 12 regions. And basically we were hedging our bets at that point. I liked the idea of having three sort of new faces of the X Division, Strong, Tyler Black, Steen, all debuting within the last year or so. So I felt that the idea that this is the new era and they're standing on their own 2 feet could have been a good way to go with this, but actually having Samoa Joe in the mix might well ensure a better match, which is better for everybody involved overall. So I was a little bit torn with that, but we've got Kurt Angle and Chris Sabin coming up on TNA Evolve, but I'm going to include that in next week's episode. I'll go through both episodes of TNA Evolved as well as the go home show for TNA Impact. So thank you for watching. Hopefully you'll join me again next time, and hopefully you are looking forward as much as I am to Destination X 2011 and the increased focus on the X Division.